Good morning.
Yeah, my name is Astrid Sime, and the ED of Better Planet Initiative. Happy to be here.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I am Gasta Chinji. I work for TweeTalk Plus.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Priya Anna Kandwanaho, and I work with Accord.
Thank you, Anna.
All right, my name is Patrick Vyakagava, and I work for myself at Makerere University. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello,
Good morning,
everyone.
everyone.
Oh, you can go
Good
first.
morning, everyone. I'm Christine Betinagawa, working at Makerere University.
Thank you.
Richard Hammer is my name. I work with teens at Makerere University.
Next person.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kaitesi Jacqueline, and I work at Teens Uganda.
Good morning, everyone. My name's of Isaac Sozi, and I work with Teens Uganda.
Yes, good morning. Katamba Yusuf is my name. I work with Teens Uganda. Thank you.
Then we have Anthony that has it introduced.
Good morning. My name is Anton Olimbo. I work with the Climate Action Network Uganda.
Okay, thank you. Oh, we also have the team, Viola.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Viola Lugoya from MD.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Krothom Nampima. I work with Emily.
Okay. Much. We shall proceed to our next agenda item, which is remarks by Emily. I will make the remarks just to welcome all of you for the meeting where we are reviewing the report on district committees. Emily with support from WWF, the Worldwide Fund for Nature, Uganda Country Office, with in collaboration with CEDA, supported Emily as the implementing partner to undertake a study to document experiences and functionality of district committees. The intention is to inform the development of the regulations that are setting out guidelines for the establishment and operationalization of the district environment committees. We know that the National Environment Act, particularly Section 27, provides for the establishment of these committees, the district environment committees. But for us to ensure that the committees have been the regulations have been developed in a consultative process, but also integrating in the different issues and ensuring that we learn from how the existing committees have been operationalized, the challenges, and also how we can draw lessons from them to help establish the district environment and management committees. We decided to undertake this study. We selected two districts, that is Mitoma and Kasese, as the study districts to help us generate the ideas around how the existing committees, for example, we have the disaster management committees at the different We have the technical planning committees. There are a number of committees in place. So we wanted to gather lessons and experiences on how these committees have been operational, what have been the challenges, and how we can leverage that experience to design the regulations and the guidelines that will inform the establishment of the Environment and Natural Resource Committees. So as Emily, I hope you can hear me. So as Emily, we procured a consultant, that is Dr. Christine Nagawa Betty, who led a team to collect the primary data to inform this process. And that is the report that is going to be presented here today for your input as we look forward to enrich it. Thank you so much. And I request we go to the next agenda item. I will invite Dr. Nagawa.
I'm done. My name is.
Can I be allowed to share my screen? Oh, thank you, Christine, for your kind introduction. Hope everyone can hear me. This is a report documenting some of the experiences and functionality of district committees in Uganda as earlier introduced or shared with you. We are sharing some of the findings and recommendations that we found while visiting the two districts, that is Kasese and Mitoma, which are both in the western part of Uganda. So while doing this work, we wanted to, you find that environmental and natural resource management is an important component of decentralization in Uganda. Let's say when you move to the different districts, you find that there's always a component of environment and natural resource management. And this is mainly aimed at improving effectiveness, efficiency, and transparency in service delivery. And when you look at the National Environment Act 2019, all districts are expected to establish a district environment and natural resource committee. But while you find that even this being a requirement, you find that most of the district visited, we did not find a functional district environment natural resource committee. So this is based on the absence of clear regulations to guide their formation and operations. So it is against this background that we wanted to find out if there are some district committees that are already in existence. If there are they fully operational, and what has led to the success of these committees which are already in existence. And you find that most of the committees, the roles are going to differ depending on the need of the different districts, because you find that we are not all going to have the same problems. Although you find that maybe if you're looking at the environment, each district is of course going to follow or is going to form plans based on what is taking place within their different districts. So it is hoped that when these district environment natural resource committees are established, they're going to be responsible for coordinating environmental management activities, prepare district environment action plans, integrate the environmental concerns into environmental development projects, and of course, monitor the different activities suggested so that they do not harm the environment. In addition to the district environment plans, they're expected to also prepare district set of the environment reports, of course, enforce ordinances and bylaws. I think you've seen some days when NEMA visits people who are encroaching on wetlands. So those are some of the things that we also expected from these district environment natural resource committees. Of course, disseminate environmental information and then work hand in hand with the NEMA to enhance the environmental governance, because you find that even when we have the rules or everything in place, but we are working in isolation, you find that the end product for both is going to might be affected. So this also has to be taken care of. So this report, we are mainly presenting the findings, let's say the procedure that should be followed to ensure that once established, the ENRCs will be fully operational and functional. So what was the purpose of our work? We are mainly to conduct a study on related district committees, gather and document their experiences, successes, challenges, and lessons learned, with the view that the findings will inform the functionality and drafting of regulations of the district environment and natural resource committees. Because I think around, let's say, early June or late May, NEMA also did, or they said that they had prepared a document about the establishment of this district environment and natural resource committees, and they wanted to find out in the different districts which they had sampled if this had been effected. We are still waiting for their findings to see how we can also improve on our report. The main objectives were to assess the structure, roles, and responsibilities of the related district committees, highlight case studies of districts where committees have demonstrated effectiveness, analyze the key barriers hindering the functionality of the committees, and to also provide evidence-based recommendations for the formation of regulations guiding the establishment and operation of the district environment natural resource committees. Of course, before looking at the success of the different district committees, we followed different methods, or we had a plan. First of all, if we have your objectives, then how are we going to get the data? So this was mainly through key informant interviews of the related district, the relevant stakeholders at the different districts that we found. And then it is from these interviews that we're able to prepare this report with assistance from someone from Emily. So when you look at Kasese and Mitoma, they all have their own challenges, although some of them are related in one way or another. Because when we are looking at the environment, this is one issue which is very broad, because when you're looking at the environment, you're not going to consider maybe only, let's say, that pollution, because pollution alone is not going to give, looking at only the effects of pollution is not going to help you with the different challenges that you might be facing. That once I've sorted pollution, then all the other environmental issues are going to go away. This is going to be very hard. So when you look at Kasese district, I think last year we all witnessed the heavy rains which caused flooding or bursting of river Nyamwamba. And when we visited this district, we still found that the major problem that they're facing are the landslides and mudslides, and then of course, flooding. Different sections of areas where people staying are being washed away by these waters, because this is coming from, let's say, we could say poor environment management. Even when we are told what to do, sometimes you don't want to look at that. Despite flooding being a challenge, you find that also drought is affecting the same district. Because when you look at the lowlands, most of these times, most of the people are saying that the weather patterns have completely changed, and most of them are losing their crops due to these changes in seasons. But when we visited Mitoma, you find that their problems were slightly similar, although these ones had changed due to the nature of both, let's say the nature, or let's say the terrain of the two districts. You find that in Mitoma, they are suffering with heavy rains, they have drought, deforestation, swamp reclamation. Most of the lands, just like in Kampala, most of the swamps are being reclaimed for agriculture, and then also the hailstorms. And we know that in most cases, if we have frequent hailstorms and you're doing agriculture, then your crops are always going to be affected. Then this is, of course, automatically going to affect your outputs at the end of the growing season. Despite these being their major environmental issues, you find that they're also suffering from park encroachment, while at the same time animals from the parks are also attacking them. We have road breakages, overgrazing, and then river bursting. This river bursting could also be grouped under flooding, but you find that most of the people interviewed were giving both as environmental issues, because if there is a bursting of the river, then that would mean that the water is flowing in areas where it is not supposed to flow, which is automatically also going to contribute to the flooding. So when we ask them if they have a district environment and natural resource committee, 58% of the respondents agreed that they have this committee. But when you actually go into the details, or let's say when you read the Environment Act, you find that what they're referring to as the District Environment and Natural Resource Committee is just the District Production and Natural Resource Committee, as we shall say when you look at their composition. For them, it looked like that theirs was what they believed was a District Environment Natural Resource Committee was actually part of this. So also for the non-government organizations which we visited, most of them are saying that they've heard of this committee. And for the case of Kasese, the head of the Department of Natural Resources say that while the Environmental Act stipulates what is needed to establish this committee, it is still not operational. Even when we have the manpower, But as long as you don't have, let's say, the actual mandate, then you cannot operationalize a committee. So that would mean that these different districts, they need to work hand in hand, or their management also have to think about what can be done in order to look at the best ways in which we can manage the establishment of these committees when the time comes. So what are some of the established district committees that we found operational? These have not been separated for the different committees because we found that there were some relations between them. But we hope that when we prepare the final report, we are going to actually separate each of the district committees in the different districts, because we find that some of their needs are slightly different. We found what was referred to as a committee on production, but this production committee, in most cases, was also going hand in hand with production, and then the natural resources. We also had a committee on road, works and water. This was specific for Mitoma district. We also have community-based services. This is not exactly a committee, but you find that during their explanations, people believe that if the community is participating, then what the service they're offering is being considered as a committee. For both districts, they have a district disaster and management committee. Their management, or the different hierarchy of the district, was also considered a committee in some areas. We have a nutrition committee, marketing, technical planning, and physical planning. So those are some of the committees that we found that are operational within these districts. So who make up the different committees? You find that given that this is decentralized, you find that each of them, or each of the committees, is going to have people from the different walks of life. And when we also ask these people, how long have these committees been in operation, we were told that these have been there with the start of the district. Once the government says that we have, let's say, maybe we are going to give Kampala a new district, there are some instruments, or let's say regulations, or whatever it's called, that is going to be there, or what is expected. And you find that in most cases, you'd expect to find a COW, an LC 5, and then, of course, the technical personnel. And you find that in most of these cases, or most of the committees that we have seen earlier that are established, most of them, even if you're, let's say we have a road, water, and lands committee, their chairperson, LC5, might be the head of this committee. But remember, in some cases, these chairpersons are just political heads. They don't have the expertise. So they need the technical personnel as part of these committees for their full operations. Of course, we have land officers. If we look at the water, lands, and environment, we have the district community development officers. We have surveyors, councillors, of course, sub-county chiefs, then development partners. As we shall see, these are, in most cases, even when the government is giving these districts money, it is already, we were told that this money is not enough. So some of these districts have got sponsors who they are referring to as development partners, like we can see WWF. So these development partners, some of them are being nominated to be part of the different committees at the district to help in the management. We also have faith-based organizations or community service organizations. In Kasese district, we found Caritas. It is a church-based, very active in areas of disaster and management. Because we find that if the district does not have a vehicle and a disaster is looming, then they're going to call on Caritas to help them. And we found that this is one way which is helping Kasese help, let's say, the people in case of such an eventuality. They're always there on hand to help them. So which was also very helpful. So when you look at these committees as separated here, for the established committees, depending on the need, depending on the need, in comparison to the major environmental issues within the different districts, you find that here there's some slight difference in how the committees, or in differences in the established committees, but what we have that is common to all is the production, marketing, and natural resources. While technical planning is missing from Mitoma, it is implied, because without the technical officers, you find that we are not going to achieve some of the things. And some of the committees, though they might not be related to environmental issues, but at least they're already there and they're helping the district in its management, or as it performs their different works. What are some of the roles and responsibilities of these different committees? Most common response, I know this slide is a bit crowded, but I thought like if we just have a flash of these different roles, then it will give us an idea that there are very many responsibilities which are common across all. But even when we know that these district committees have these responsibilities, but how effective are they? Or how are they performing their different roles? Because if we look at like the technical planning, it should be offering technical guidance and advice during committee meetings. Sometimes they're also doing a lot of awareness and sensitization, because sometimes even when we know that this is bad, we need constant reminders. So some of the district committees, we are told that maybe if we are told that during heavy rains, everyone should be their brother's keeper, because we found that how they're managing disaster, let's say in Kasese, sometimes they're sounding drums and then they're blowing whistles. And then they're also trying to come up with different apps that help alert them in case of changes in weather. Like by the time we visited, we were told that strong winds had attacked the Chilembe areas in the mountains, but the effects this time were not very high, because they already have in place ways in which they are going to inform their people. So this constant sensitization is helping save very many lives. Of course, if you're in the road, land and water, then they're helping in the land demarcations. Some of them are also helping in providing shelter. Of course, we are also looking at strategizing on the different interventions. We are looking at scrutinizing budgets and then monitoring. So despite these very many roles, we also ask these people, what is contributing, or why do you think your committee is effective? And most of the committees which were found successful, most of their strength aligned in their strong leadership. as long as the leadership is good, you find that people are willing even to support them. When we talked to the LC5 chairperson on Mitoma district, he is very proud of his district, and you find that he was actually aware of everything that was being done in the district. So with such a leader, you are certain that if you need something from them, they're always going to help you during their time of need. They also have community relationships with the district leaders, because you find that here, if the district leaders want to create an island for themselves, however good your program is, if your relationship with the community is bad, I can tell you, no one is going to assist you. So this is also helping them achieve what they are interested in. Then the joint monitoring by all committees, because the success of one committee is of course going to roll back or is going to influence the activities that other committees. Then they are well equipped, and then they have technical committees with the staff. They have the required expertise to help with the management of the different works that they are doing, within the different work that they are doing. If you have skilled staff, then all your work is also going to be easy. Then they have availability of resources available to run the different district programs, even when the money from the government is low. Hope you can still hear me.
Yes, we are.
Okay, so when we find that the resources are available to run district programs, then this is also going to be very helpful. Then timely communication to the different talk shows. And then they have continuous skilling of their committee members. Then there is specialization and effectiveness in delivery of outputs. If you prepare your, let's say, your district plan, or if you prepare your budget, what are the deliverables at the end of, let's say, a given quarter, or at the end of a quarter? So once this is clear, then you find that here, this is also going to be very helpful. So despite the strength that we found within the committees, you find, of course, there are always going to be challenges which are going to affect them, even when they have money to run the different activities. We were told that actually funds in both Kasese and Mitoma are limiting. The money being given is not enough. So maybe as the government prepares to roll out these DENRCs, they should also find a source of money which should be enough to support the different activities. Another challenge is political interference. I think this is also going to be self-explanatory. Each political party has its own agenda. And we saw earlier that when we are looking at these different committees, we have someone from politics who is part of these committees. So each politician is fronting their own agenda. So if this is colliding with the needs of the district, then you find that here it is going to be very hard to come up to make a right decision, which is going to benefit the people. If I can look at one example which is not related to this, if we look at Mukono district, one of the challenges that they are facing is the political interference. A politician is going to come and talk bad about, let's say, the plans for the government, because for them they are in the opposition. So if that politician is very vocal, then the government plan is going to will be put on hold. So these district committees are also suffering from the same. Then there is, of course, low participation in meetings. Sometimes the people are saying that if we look that maybe the money is not enough. If you don't have an allowance for them, they're not going to come. If the district calls let's say the councillors, and then maybe people from the sub-counties, sometimes the sub-counties at a distance from the district. So if they don't have allowance or per diem for them, you find that they're not going to come. So which is going to also affect them. We have sensitization. Then one of the another challenge is the poor mindset of the community staying in areas prone to disasters. As we are walking along Chilembe, we were told that there's actually an area which was gazetted that this one is for what? Maybe the traditionalists, that if the government plans or if the government wants to succeed in management of land around the river Nyamwamba or around the Chilembe area, they should first work hand in hand with these traditional practitioners, if I can call them the witch doctors, that for them they can talk to the gods in the mountains to stop these floods, or before they can construct any interventions, which was actually a bit mind disturbing. If in this era we still think about this, then some people do not know also how to handle the disaster victims, or the technical understanding is not enough. So these were some of the main challenges that these districts are facing, but the main key point is without funding, most of the activities are not going to they're not going to be effected within the different areas. So when you look at the successive stories on the effectiveness of these district committees, one of the development partners, that is Worldwide Fund, they've been given satellite digital tools, which are being used to detect changes in climate, which are helping them to predict chances of a disaster. So once they are notified, then they're going to work effectively, or they're going to inform the people in time so that they can vacate those affected areas. When you look at the case of the swamp reclamation, you find that here, Nyamhizi swamp has been restored by the Natural Resource Department. So this reclamation has also helped the people. And from this committee, you also find that here, they have also come up with different incentives to the people who are trying to manage the different wetlands, as we try to reduce on the encroachment and degradation. In some areas, they're providing alternative pieces of land where people can do their agriculture. Then also, apart from depending on mainly the river, different communities have been skilled in different ways. They know how to keep bees. So this would mean instead of cutting down all the trees for farming in wetlands, they have an alternative source of income, because once the beehives are supplied to them, then this has also been very hopeful. This is just one of the success stories that we have included here, but we have more in the report. So what can we learn from this? First of all, the environment is crucial to our human existence and well-being. So all the activities we do, we should think of our environment. So what is causing these different floods in Kasese? We are saying poor land use systems. So meaning if we can address the environmental issues, then if we can put in place mechanisms to address these issues, then these environmental issues are then also going to decline. But of course, we also need to continue lobbying for funds if we are to achieve success in the different committees of the different committees. So as operationalization of committees is to take place, what are some of the recommendations that we are suggesting from what we found on the ground? It would mean that we need clear regulations and guidelines during the operationalization of committees. Once this is clear, then these same committees should be able to lobby and also have advocacy campaigns to secure funding for this committee. I'm sure once the problem of inadequate funding is solved, then we can always look at the work that needs to be done. So as the government prepares their budgets, they shouldn't look at only one component. If we have to look at the environment, all the technical committees or personnel should work hand in hand to ensure this is achieved. Of course, we need continuous monitoring. Sometimes if someone does not come back to check on the committees that were established, you find that the next time you go back, they might tell you that this committee has never been in existence because you only came to start the committee, and since then you haven't gone back to offer guidance. Then we need to have awareness and sensitization campaigns in order to create a sense of ownership and active engagement in these environmental issues. If you're living in an area which is disaster prone, then once you're always sensitized on what should be done, then you find that this is going to become better. Then, or the management of where you are is also going to be considered, which will help you address the issues. Then we need community participation at any one time through baseline research, because sometimes we suggest ideas, but if we don't have enough research on what is going to be done, then you find that some of what would be good usually ends up failing. So stakeholder analysis you find that it is not adequately done because sometimes you are ignoring the community as stakeholders, yet they are the most important if we are to achieve some of the work that we want to do. So those are some of the findings some of the findings and recommendations that we found during our visit to Kasese and Mitoma. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nagos, for the detailed presentation of what was documented during the field visit to Kasese and Mitoma to reflect the experiences and functionality of these committees and the lessons that we can draw as we develop guidelines for establishing the district environment and natural resource committees. I want to recognize new members that have joined this pool and invite them to introduce in the chat. We shall proceed to our next agenda item, which is the reaction from the audience. So I invite colleagues to put up your hand, and then you will unmute and be able to share. I have seen Hamba. Hamba, you can raise a comment.
Yeah, thank you, Christine and Dr. Christine. I am happy to have listened into your findings, but I have a particular interest on issues to do with wetlands management. So where you speak to this Nyamuhizi swamp, was it the efforts of the community together with the committee that this swamp was restored, or it was the efforts of enforcement, purely enforcement? Because after when you have plans for restoration of swamps or wetlands, many times you're looking at the end goal in terms of wide use of that particular area, because you want the community to benefit at some point. So the other excellent benefits usually are either seasoned grazing, if that's where, if in that area they have cattle, or a bit of agricultural activities that are a bit controlled or regulated. So I'm wondering who did the restoring? Was it a collective effort, or it was just the committee itself, or the committee, the District Natural Resources Committee? I thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Richard, for the for the question. The restoration of the wetlands was done under support of the Green Climate Fund. So the technical committee and political leaders helped in its implementation during the time of restoration. So I could rightly say that it was through both the districts and then the involvement of the different communities with the support of funds from this organization.
I have seen Anna. Anna, you can unmute.
Thank you, Christine, and also Christine for the presentation. I think one of the key focuses of the paper is functionality. Not think, I know because you introduced that in the first slide. Functionality of the district environment and natural resources committees. So if you go to the law, which you talked about, I had opened a slide here. Section 26 of the NIA, it provides, section 27 provides for those committees. It provides for the membership. It provides for election of the chairpersons and the vice chairpersons. So when you say that in Kasese and Mitoma, a certain percentage said there is existence of this committee, then it's a bit confusing because the law is clear and there are indicators of whether there is a committee on district and environment natural resources or not. So what were your indicators to establish that existence? Because then there has to be like membership, there has to be some documentation of maybe the meetings they've had. So those indicators are what is missing for me to determine the existence of that committee in Kasese and in Mitoma. Then the issue of financing. Rightly so, there is need for that financing, but also the law provides for these committees to get funding. So look at that as well. It could be a recommendation. It could be, that is section 28(2). District and Environment Natural Resources Committee shall receive funding from among the sources of funds available to the urban or district council for performing its functions under the Act. I think that's also in addition to that conditional grant that is in the law. For now, that's my addition. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. This is Carol. It's just a rejoiner because I sort of had similar concerns, but even the very starting point is something that didn't come clear for me. Kindly please elaborate, Dr. Christine. Did you say that most of these committees are merged within the production committee? Did you say they operate as the production committee, like they don't exist, but then as a matter of fact, instead it is the production committee doing all this work? I asked because I missed that point. Because otherwise we have a project in these very same districts, and they say these committees are there, you actually meet members. So I want to know, do they front a certain members of some of these committees, and yet it is just a production committee? I don't know, just clarify that, because either we are looking at, they could be there and maybe it is strictly the functionality that is the issue. So just take me back on exactly what you mean, because a statement like that came out. Thanks.
Thank you. Doctor, would you like to respond to those, or we can have Anton and then you respond?
Kristen.
Yes, please.
Yeah, thanks so much for the presentations. Just on one point on lack of funding, it always comes out, and it is the most common problem. And in most cases, I think we are not interrogating why it's like that. Because wherever you go, they will still give you the same kind of response. Now, from my experience, especially in the committees like the NDA, that's the National Designated Authority, we hardly see requests from local governments. So we need to interrogate that challenge. And in my view, it is mostly an internal challenge in most of, either you go to central or even local governments. So in other words, there seems to be very limited capacity or even motivation for the local governments or even these big parties, the MDAs, to take the initiative to raise funds. Probably we need to interrogate further why that is so persistent. That's the most common challenge you will ever get in most of the studies you carry out. If you ask either a ministry or whichever, funding is a problem. I think we need to interrogate further. Why is it that funding is always the problem? Yet, from what I see, the other side, we hardly get requests or proposals from these entities, either as joint proposals or individual proposals, because the law allows these local governments to raise money, not only from the treasury, but also from other sources, like through those joint collaborations. Maybe you needed, I think we need to interrogate further what's happening. Is it a capacity problem, a motivation problem? Yeah, so there are those issues I wanted to really ask to interrogate when we are doing studies. Otherwise, they will keep telling you the same, but without knowing the underlying or root cause or persistent lack of funding. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Before we take on Prof. Yakagava, let me invite Dr. Nagawa to first respond to those three. From Anna, Carol, and Anthony. Doctor, the floor is yours. Dr. Nagawa, I don't know whether you're muted, but you can unmute so that we can hear you speaking.
Sorry about that. When we look at when we consider the National Environmental Act 2019, each district is expected to establish a district environment natural resource committees, but these committees are not there. So when we were doing this work, we had our questionnaire, and the question was, does this committee exist? Most of them were saying yes. But when you actually look at what they are considering to be this District Environment and Natural Resources Committee, is just the what? The production, what we are called, I'm just going to summarize it as just the production committee. So we just wanted to find out, why is it hard for the districts to establish this committee, yet it has already been provided for within the National Environment Act? So you also talked about something on the financing law, which provides for these committees. Yes, this is correct, but sometimes, anyway, I don't know, because when we talked to the natural resources officer for Kasese, he told us it is correct. We are supposed to establish these committees, but the guidelines are still not clear, because they were saying you might establish the committee, but then it is going to create an audit query. So I should rightly say that when you look at these districts, they are not there unless they are saying that their production committees is what is being considered as their district and what? District Environment and Natural Resource Committee, from the people that we talk to. When we look at the Natural Resource Officer, when we talk to the Forest Officer for both, the forestry officers for both districts, or even when let's say, when you look at the, let's say even the heads of the different districts, the LC5s of the different districts who are able to talk to, it is still not clear what needs to be done, even if the act is there. But from our engagement, these committees are still not fully operational within the different districts that we visited. And then Carol was also asking something about the SEM, if they've been merged with the production committee. My answer is going to be no. Each of the, when you look at the different, when you look at these different districts, they have the production, marketing, and natural resources. So I don't know, you said you have a project with them. When you interview them, are they saying that they have a district environment and natural resource committee, or what they're referring to as the district environment and natural resource committee is actually the Committee for Production, Marketing and Natural Resources. But they didn't tell us at any one time that they have merged these two. So, and the other question was, is the production committee doing this? If we look at when you look at these different committees, when you ask them for their roles and responsibilities, we were told that for them, they are providing the technical expertise. If it is, let's say, natural resources, when you look at the environmental officer and the forestry officer, usually they're going to consider, because they're part of this committee which has a head. So they're the ones who are going to fit into what is being done, but we cannot say outright that it is the District Environment and Natural Resources Committee. And then about the similarity in the different committees within the different districts. Of course, it looks monotonous. What one district is, let's say, considering as production, marketing, and natural resources, the other one called it a sectoral committee on production, natural resources, and trade and commerce. So when you look at these two, for the one in Mitoma has added trade and commerce to the same production and natural resources committee. So about the repetitions for the different committees, unless we say that maybe if they're similar, we can consider it as just one committee, but from our engagement with them, at least these are the committees that were given, because we're asking them, from which department are you and which committee do you belong to? If, let's say, you talk to a forestry officer, they're telling you that they are part of the production, marketing, and natural resources committee. And finally, Anthony, about funding, we did not go into details of why these committees are saying they do not have funding. Because for them, when you ask them, what is the major challenge you're facing, they're saying they do not have funds. That what they are being given is not enough to run all the, let's say, the activities that they're going to do. Maybe my assumption would be that maybe some of these committees do not know that they can ask for this money from the treasury or ask for support from elsewhere to help them in running of their different, to help them run the different communities. If I look at the question which Dilis is asking, they're saying that the two districts seem to have quite a number of committees, some having the same members. And the question was, is there room for collapsing some of them and perhaps co-opt members when needed? These are, let's say, employees at the district, each of them, let's say, being recruited for a specific role. So I don't know, unless you're suggesting that for us as we prepare the report, we should try to merge the committees to see which would work. Because you find that, like in Kasese, we were told that in case of if there is a looming disaster or when disaster strikes, all hands on deck, everyone is going to be involved in finding ways of helping the people through this. So maybe this would help in management of some of these issues. I'm seeing a question for from Daphne. She's asking for, I don't remember saying this. You're saying that you mentioned one of the success stories as the committee being able to implement laws for environment management. No. I don't remember saying this. We said that for the success stories, we just looked at, that's an example of the, let's say for the case of the Nyamhizi swamp restoration, we're saying that this was successful, but we do not target to a law. But if we suggest that we do that, then we can always also consider that. Thank you. I've looked at what has been shared in the chat. We are going to put them. I'm going to consider them, and then when we are making the report, we are going to include them to make our report better. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nado, for the responses. We left with one hand by Prof. Yakagava. I request that you raise your comments.
All right. Thank you, Kristen. Both Christians. I have a question. My first question goes to Christine Emily, and then I will give my comments to Christine McKelly. Christine Emily, when this report is prepared, what's the end game? Where do we end with it? You probably answer it after. Christine of McKelly, unless you want to answer it immediately. If it can take half a minute.
Yes, I can answer. The end goal of this report is we are informing the drafting of the regulations.
Could you closer, please, Mike?
I am saying that the end goal of this report is that districts want to establish the district environment and natural resource committees, but there are no guidelines that they need to follow the establishment to the operationalization. So this report, the findings are to inform the drafting of these regulations by NEMA.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's very important. Then now straight to Christine McKelly. Like Anna mentioned, if you go to Section 27 of the Act, it provides the constitution of the District Environment and Natural Resources Committee. Several officers, it's actually made of just officers. Just for the benefit of everyone, I will just copy it in the chat so that we have an idea of probably why we got the responses we got. Those are the members that are supposed to constitute the District Environment and Natural Resources Committee. And like you rightly said, none of those districts that you visited have an established committee as provided for in the law. But when you look at the membership of this committee as proposed, as suggested in the law, it's understandable that probably some of them thought the production committee or the disaster committee was playing the role of the Environment and Natural Resources Committee, because the membership is almost the same. Most of those officers will sit or will be represented in those different committees. So my question or comment is, let the report be clear that we don't have, and none of these districts have a committee that has been established. And part of the reason, in my view, if you look at Again, section 27, subsection 3, the minister is supposed to come up with a statutory instrument that prescribes the procedures of the District Environment and Natural Resources Committee. So, Christine, Emily, the question to you, do we have this instrument? Most likely we do not have, and that's why you're saying that probably this report will inform the guidelines, I think, which will constitute the instrument. So I wouldn't expect any district by now to have those committees established if the statutory instrument is yet to be released. So the question is, what can we learn from your study that could inform either the guidelines or the instrument that the minister will release or rather issue? There are some interesting findings that I heard from you. I think one of those districts, maybe Kasese, you mentioned that it has an environmental committee at the sub-county. I think that they are probably working in the past because, or using the old law, which was repealed, because with the new law, sub-county committees, environment and natural resources were removed. We now only have, I think, at the district. If you look very closely, you might not easily find it in the law. So you may have to revise that to be certain that they are using the current law. Then there is somewhere where Christine Makere, you mentioned that on the strength, you mentioned strong leadership. I think that's a very important finding. It will be interesting to see what did they exactly mean by strong leadership as one of the strengths. Because if you unpack it, it would help us engage with whoever will be involved in setting up the guidelines to cater for some requirements, for members of that committee. If strong leadership is something that was identified, what are those elements of strong leadership that we need to bring out in future when we are developing the guidelines? There's also still somewhere where you talked of resources available. And the question as a strength, I was just wondering, for those two districts, I don't remember which one, where they claimed that they had resources, could it be alternative sources, or their own internally generated funding? Because the current law provides for the use of the funds from the center to sustain those committees. So I was a bit curious to know, when you mentioned that they have funding, then later on, of course, in the challenges, you mentioned that they are struggling with the funding. Okay. And then you also mentioned somewhere, Christine Makere, that they have laws that I think, but you didn't define exactly, are these laws as bylaws or ordinances? At what level are we looking at when you talked of one of the interventions or success stories was having laws? It'd be nice to know at what level. Is it the sub-county? Is it the municipality? Is it the district? Because all this information could be useful in shaping up the guidelines that will be developed to establish these committees. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick, for your observations. Some of them I'm going to consider them as comments. So like you rightly said, so during our interactions, the statutory instrument about the establishment of the District Environment Natural Resource Committees from the minister is still not. I think I have not seen it anywhere. And even when we try to interact with them, we're asking them, what is preventing this committee from being formed, or why isn't it there at the district? And some of them were saying, we know the act allows for it, but we still haven't yet got clear instructions if we should form what? This district, and Environment Natural Resources Committee. So we did not, when someone gives you such a response, then you find that it is going to be very hard for you to continue with the next question, because as we try to engage them or interact with them, we wanted to understand mainly if you have committees which are already, let's say, operational, why hasn't this one actually been, or why isn't it operational within this particular district? When we go to the other comment on unpacking strong leadership, what the people we looked at, what they considered as being good leadership, first of all, if let's say that their leader was, let's say, actively engaged in environmental work, then that was a plus. And then you also find that the leader was aware of what was going on around them, such that when they're holding a meeting, they can actually guide the meeting. So that was also taken into consideration as contributing to the strong leadership. In addition to that, the committees that form the different committee members, if they show trust in their leader, then of course they can rely on them, or they can work together in order to achieve their set objectives at any one time. And also what they also considered as being a strong leader was also having a political head who is interested in what they are doing, because then it becomes very easy for him to use his political influence when they are asking for their different things that they need. About availability of resources, this came in from the extra funding with support of what? The development partners. Sometimes some of them are running projects, not from money, which is provided by the government, but through collaborations with the different organizations and even the non-government organizations, which are helping them. Because you find that if you have an NGO which is working with that, which is dealing with environmental issues, like when we visited Keka, you find that here, these NGOs they get projects which are supposed to run, but they can only be successful if they have people from the district helping them, because they find that in most cases, the districts have the expertise, or they have people with the skills who can help them with implementation. So that is where we're considering availability of resources to some of these people. Maybe it was, we can always remove it and only consider the inadequate funding to maybe create a cause for the need of extra funding, maybe to support the work of the government, the work of the districts in the implementation of the different activities. About what can be learned from this study, like you rightly said, we can, let's say, from our interactions, we can ably say that these district environment natural resource committees are not there. But if, as the Environmental Act provides for, if we need them, this needs what to be done from the different success stories of the different established committees, and then what can be done, let's say even quicken their establishment, because then they're going to help in the different areas where some things might be overlooked. Yeah, finally about the laws and ordinances, I had looked at this as an oversight. I'm going to go back and revisit the questionnaire to see the actual law which was being referred to, which was being referred to in order to improve the writing of the report. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doctor, for the responses, and the team for the comments that you raised, which we believe that they are going to enrich the report. And what the emphasis is drawing to us, making sure that the report highlights that there are no district environment committees, and then make recommendations for establishing one, but also describing the strength, unpacking some of them, like the good leadership, showing the different indicators of a good leadership for a committee to be operational, also the elements. Then I will go through the chat and highlight some of the comments that we could have responded to and see how to, because I've seen a comment that we need to make mention of some of them. So from where Dr. Naga ended, Penina was asking how is the prioritization like at district fund in fund distribution to different sector. I think this is I think we didn't focus on the prioritization of the funding and the distribution to different sectors. So the report does not highlight anything like this. Then indicate the absence. Yes, we've taken note of this. And then, so districts have no district. We've all concurred that we need the report to be clear that these committees are non-existent. Then, thank you. I think the committees are still the same. And then, still Anna makes the same recommendation of this report, highlighting the need for guidelines to guide the establishment of the committees. And this is exactly the rationale as to why this study was undertaken, so that we can have those pointers that can guide in the development of the guidelines. I believe if this recommendation is well reflected in the report, also help to steer action. So I want to thank you so much, and thank you so much to, I see Robert.
There's a hand up.
Yes, Robert.
Yes, I join others in thanking Dr. Nagawa for the excellent presentation, and also you, Christine, for the moderation. I thought that it would be critical to highlight or to make reference on some of the things which have been raised, especially the issue of are there district committees or no. I think it was a comment from Penina. There have been and there exist district environment committees as per the old law. And with the new law, these committees have been renamed. They are not DECs. Now they are District Environment and Natural Resources Committees. Now, the new law has prescribed one of the omissions in the old law, which is composition. And Anna has alluded to the statutory instrument to prescribe, and that instrument are the regulations which are under development. I also want to point out guidelines are not statutory instruments. So with regard to the question of there are no committees, I think it would be better we have this clear, that there are committees, district environment committees in some parts of Uganda, some of the districts that went ahead and established them as per the old law, but they are not compliant with the new law. And that is why NEMA is undertaking this process. They have done a lot of stakeholder consultations, and I think they are finalizing these regulations. Now, once these regulations are finished or are completed, if I may to use the word, there will be a regulation specifying on how the existing laws should comply. Sorry, the existing environmental committees should comply with now the new form and function. So I thought that I needed to point that out. Over to you, Christine.
Yeah, thank you so much, Robert, for that clarity. Our next and the next agenda item, the way forward. We want to thank you once again for participating and for enriching the report. And thank you so much, Dr. Nicole, for presenting and also for undertaking this study. The way forward is that we are looking forward to have the final report of this. And then we shall continue with the consultations on the same with the districts on how the regulations that prescribe the establishment of committees should look like. So those are the two major actions we are taking away from this meeting. We are going to use these comments to improve the report, and then we shall come up with a final draft. We shall convene more engagements with the district local governments that are targeted to do more consultations. Also, we shall have NEMA as a key stakeholder to listen to consultations and also the findings from this report. Thank you so much. I don't know if Robert has any additions. If not, we can close the meeting.
No addition from me, Christine.
Okay. So I want to thank you all once again and wish you a good afternoon. We look forward to further engagements with you.
Thank you. Thank you all for your deliberations. We are humbled.
Bye.
Bye.
Maybe, Christine, you haven't talked of logistics, people's refund for data.
Okay, that will come through on your mobile money number. It is only a few that we do not have that I will be following up with. But if they are still on the call, you can put the numbers in that. Sophie, Jacqueline. Yeah. The facilitation for data will come through on your mobile money.